Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Tonic Accord podcast. I am Drew Napoli, joined by my friend and co-host Alex. How you doing, buddy?
Doing pretty well, man. How about you?
I'm doing all right. It's fall, officially fall now, and things are heating up with this election. As if you are new to the podcast, Alex and I are both political science graduates, working in various fields with politics, and it's just kind of one of our passions. But it's certainly heating up now, and with the election just over a month away, we've had an interesting development, and that is the death of Justice Ginsburg. Ruth Bader Ginsburg had passed away last week at the time of this recording, and it means there's an open seat on the Supreme Court. This is something that's going to be highly contentious, and we're going to talk about why that is, why we expect it to be kind of a big deal with the election as well, and what we think is going to happen next. So, with that, let's dive in. So I don't know. What were your kind of what are your initial thoughts when you heard the news? Because I remember getting the CNN notification. I was like, man.
Yeah, I think it was Friday afternoon. I remember I was just ready to finish up the day, and I just get that notification on my phone, and I'm just like, holy crap. This is literally the last thing that 2020 needs right now. Less than 2 months to the election. I'm just like, oh boy, man, like we're so divided, chaos on the streets, pandemic. I'm like, gosh, like couldn't we just not have this right now? Because, we're just seeing just so many different narratives. I mean, I've seen people, saying that they're just going to protest and burn, and like people just literally screaming and just this vitriolic emotion. And then I think we've seen Republicans also just show kind of how cold and robotic their kind of agenda is to make sure and get, pretty much whatever means necessary to get their nominee onto the court. And so I've seen a lot of finger pointing, a lot of just chaos, and I'm kind of split on it. Like I know that everyone talks about 2016 and, Garland and Mitch McConnell not even allowing there to be a procedure to get him even a chance to be nominated. And I want to get into that later more, but I do think it's different a little bit. But I also think that two things can be true, where I think Republicans are being quite hypocritical, but it's not illegal what they're doing. So, yeah, I mean, we can get into that a little bit later,
Sure.
but that's just kind of my initial takeaway.
So I want to give a little bit of background, just because in case we have listeners not from the United States. The Supreme Court, is the head of the judiciary, which is one of the three branches of our government. However, the head of the executive branch, which is the president of the United States, is allowed to nominate replacements for empty seats in the Supreme Court. Then the Senate in the in the legislative branch is the one that takes that nomination and either confirms or rejects it, and then puts that person in that seat. So even though it's an empty seat in one branch of government, you have two other branches of government that play a part in refilling that seat and deciding who replaces Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Now, the reason people are so upset, or one way or another, one reason many people are excited, is that these appointments on the Supreme Court are for life, right? Ruth Bader Ginsburg was on the Supreme Court until she died. There have been the cases of people retiring, but most people stay their whole life, and it's considered one of the greatest honors it is really the greatest honor of any judge you could have, is to be on the U.S. Supreme Court. So if you have a replacement decided by President Trump before this election, or perhaps in the lame duck period after November, but before February of next year, that person would be on the Supreme Court for the rest of their life. Supposedly, Donald Trump has already appointed two justices to the Supreme Court, Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh. The Brett Kavanaugh confirmation was the one that got a lot of news coverage. But basically, having three Supreme Court appointees is a big deal for the legacy of a president. So that's why, out of nowhere, something that wasn't an issue weeks ago is now going to become probably one of the biggest wedge issues in American politics.
Yes, good take there. And I think something that's always fascinating to me is the Constitution made it pretty clear that the Supreme Court is the least political of the three branches. But ironically, over time, that seems to not be the case anymore. Especially probably since Roe v. Wade and kind of into this new century, I think we've just seen it get more and more politicized. And this kind of seems to here be the acme of it, right? This just is just the pinnacle of division. And I want to get into two back in 2013, the nuclear option, because I think that's also something that's really crucial when we look at kind of how we got to this point where Trump can basically nominate someone if he gets 51% of the Senate.
Right.
And so just for people who don't know, the nuclear option is a parliamentary procedure that allows the United States Senate to override a standing rule of the Senate, such as the 60-vote rule to close debate. And so now it just allows a simple majority of 51 votes. So in the past, you would need 60% of the Senate to vote one way or the other. So this kind of stops just hyper-partisanship, right? Because you're going to need, in theory, some people to cross over one way or the other. But
Right.
now basically you need 51%. So it's quite easy for whatever party's in control to do whatever they want. And this happened back in 2013 because, let's see, by a vote by 52 to 48 in 2013, Harry Reid, who is the majority leader, was able to pass a vote that banned the use of the filibuster to prevent nominees from being confirmed. And this kind of started off this basically movement of getting rid of not only the filibuster, but this 60% majority vote. And since then, there's been actually a lot of Democrats who have condemned what this was. I mean, Chuck Schumer, Pelosi, they've all said that this was a bad decision at the time. And that is one of my almost criticisms of Obama, because I do like Obama and a lot of his policies, but he did support this because, at the time, obviously, there were a lot of conservatives that just were filibustering everything he did. I think, according to The Guardian here, Obama said nearly 30 presidential nominees to executive positions had been filibustered during his presidency, compared with only 20 in previous historic times. And so Obama was obviously always getting opposition from Republicans, and it seemed like him and a lot of Democrats thought the best solution was to get rid of the filibuster. And it was a very short-term view, and I think a very stupid thing to do. And it's backfiring. And a lot of people think, there's a great article from The Atlantic that says that if this hadn't have happened, it's likely most of Trump's own nominees wouldn't have been passed through. Right. So it looks like Democrats, unfortunately, are paying for this. And now that's kind of why we've got to this point where even if it's not before the election, I see the Senate most likely easily getting past this nominee just because of this precedent we have, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, it's almost like the Democrats have made their bed back in 2013, and now they're really sleeping in it, right? I mean, Mitch McConnell even warned them, to my friends on the other side of the aisle, wait until the shoe's on the other foot. And now we're here, right? The shoe is on the other foot. The Republicans are trying to, get through confirmations, and in the last few years, countless cabinet appointments, they just run them right through because of this rule. Now, frankly, I think getting rid of the filibuster is a good thing. I don't agree with the 60 rule. I think keeping it at 60 would have been a better check and balance for our democracy, so it's not coming down to 51-49 or 50-50 with the VP split, But yeah, I mean, in the long run, I think getting rid of the filibuster is a good thing. I don't like the idea that someone can just pull out a newspaper and stop legislation that way. But you're right, though, that it was short-sighted back when Harry Reid did it because, again, the Republicans are like, yo, man, the shoe will be on our foot soon. There won't be Democratic power forever. And then vice versa. In this exact case, it's the same thing will happen, right? Trump is president now, and the Republicans have the Senate now. But as we'll get into in a little bit, there is a chance the Democrats flip the Senate. There is a legitimate chance. I'm not going to say it's a guaranteed. It's certainly not. But there is a chance that the Democrats can flip the Senate, and we might have a Democratic president, and then same thing. They'll be able to kind of change the rules or bend the rules to their will. One thing that I think we have to remember when we talk about this, before we get too into the weeds, is this kind of the basic political principle that I was reminded of when I was doing research of this is just, a political party or a political actor of whatever means will do whatever they can to, within the power that is given to them. So if the Republicans and Mitch McConnell have the power, which they do, to move through this nomination before the next president, they will. And like you said, it's not illegal. There has been precedent set. And there was a precedent basically, just spoken about last time. Well, the Republicans control the Senate, but the president is Democratic, so we won't do it until the next election. But that's not set in stone. That's not in the Constitution. So these guys can do it, and believe me, they will.
Yeah, and just to go off that a little bit, because I think we almost fully agree on that, because I've just seen so many people that almost act like just the precedent of what happened in 2016 is good enough to determine future decisions like this, right? And
Yeah.
I think the Republicans are being hypocritical. Lindsey Graham saying, use my words against me. I mean, yeah, it's hypocritical, but it's not illegal, and they do have the right to do this. And, I do think there are some very significant differences between 2016, mainly because Obama was leaving and it was his second term, right? So there was no chance of a re-election either way. And B, because Republicans had the Senate majority and it was the left that wanted the nominee put through. So even if he was put through the Senate, there's a chance he wouldn't have even gone through. But right now, this is a Republican president, and the Senate is also a Republican majority. So there are different, it's going to be easier for them to pass it through no matter what. Because I don't think Garland would have got confirmed in that time period, even if he had have actually gone through the Senate. Now, obviously, that's up for debate. That's something completely different. But
Sure.
I just do think there are differences here, and I'm kind of sick of seeing people on social media, saying, "Oh my God, this is just horrible." I mean, yeah, I don't agree with maybe doing it so close to an election, but it's obvious. And I just wanted to read really quick. I took a screenshot of this. It's from Field of Liberty. It's that libertarian site, and it's just a great line. It says, "Why can't Republicans just say when they had the power to stop an Obama Supreme Court nominee, they did, and now that they have power to confirm a Trump pick, they will? And Democrats admit this is exactly what they would do too.
Yeah.
Both parties are exactly the same, right?"
I'm not shocked at all. I'm not shocked by anything I've seen. Like, that's what's like. You're right. That's so funny. Like, people are like, "Oh, what? They said Lindsey Graham was hypocritical." Like, yeah, duh. I mean, hello. Have you not been paying attention to politics? Like, that you should assume that any politician is a hypocrite, regardless of party.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we at this point we should have learned as a country not to take things politicians say at face value. It's just not. It just doesn't happen. So of course, like, you're right. Like, again, within the boundaries of the law, and the power that's given to them, they're allowed to do this. So they will. They definitely will. So yeah, I might not personally want it to happen, but it is definitely going to happen, and it's definitely within the prescribed legal boundaries of our system. Now, one debate that is arising is, especially on the Democrat side, is, okay, well, maybe when Democrats do have power again, do we change do we change the setup of the Supreme Court? So one thing I've heard a lot is adding seats, adding judges, because right now it's at 9, right? So, well, currently 8, but whenever the next person gets appointed, it'll be 9 judges. One option to get rid of that 6-3 Republican or conservative to liberal balance is Democrats want to just add seats and then stack those seats together. Again, it's one of those things that we were like, okay, that sounds like a good plan when you're in power, but once you're not, then what's to stop Republicans from just adding seats and stacking seats? It is a weird, like, this is a very good reminder of what you just said, that these parties will do with it whatever they can within their power to maintain power, and we're just seeing it play out.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
so,
and yeah, the
go
court.
ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, please. Okay. No, I mean the court packing thing. I agree with you. Like, I do see that kind of inevitable, just kind of from what you kind of hear the rhetoric going around on the left. I do see that being very likely. The problem is, like George Mason law professor Ilya Somin says, is that it would just be this spiraling out of control that undermines the judicial review, right?
Yeah.
And so, like you said, we just need to be careful with some of these things. And I don't support expanding the courts or packing the courts, I guess, because, the Constitution doesn't require 9 justices, but that number is set by Congress. So it is legal. But again, do we want to go down that road?
Right. What's to stop just every administration packing and adding judges? Certainly. Yeah. Now another reform that people are talking about is limiting this, appointment for life. And we've talked a year ago now, we talked about, just in general, should we limit term limits for congressmen? And I do believe that. I don't think anything should be an appointment for life. I don't think that's for a good, healthy democracy. Now, I understand that the judiciary is supposed to be more generally less influenced by waves of popular opinion, right? The judiciary is supposed to be more strictly based on written law and not just like public opinion. So I can see how a 25-year term limit makes sense, right? Have it be long, have these people get experience, but I don't think it should be for life. But again, That's not the current situation. What I do want to shift over is, how do you think this will affect the presidential election or just elections in general?
I've been really going. Okay, so first I'll talk about this election, and it's actually I've been kind of really going back and forth on this because I know a lot of people are worried that I think what's her name the Amy Coney Barrett gal who is from Louisiana. I think she's kind of his top choice right now, at least from what I've seen. I think what is it Friday? He said he's going to announce his big pick, down the escalator or whatever that is.
Yeah, the rumors are that she's on the top.
Yeah. And the thing is, so I think a lot of people are worried that he's going to just get a hyper conservative who's going to try to overturn Roe v. Wade. And this lady on paper is significantly conservative, significantly anti-abortion. She's part of this Catholic group that is very outspoken against abortion. But as we've kind of seen with especially Neil Gorsuch, a lot of people thought he was going to be more conservative socially than he's been on the court.
Right.
And, I think Trump's seeing the polls where he needs suburban women and he needs college educated women. So I don't think they're going to do something just brash and stupid and just put in someone that could potentially or fight to overturn Roe v. Wade. I think they need to balance the rural and suburbs, and they know that. And so I actually think this could help Trump, because some of his base who are going to want a hardline social conservative, she could be a fit, so it's going to get them behind him. But also, I think a new woman Supreme Court justice who definitely seems qualified. I mean, she's the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Seventh Circuit out of Louisiana, and she has a good record. So I think in some ways, politically, it could be good for him, especially, too, because I think there's going to be maybe a rise in protesting on the left, and that kind of law and order message could also help Trump, because we're going to see a lot of emotion coming out of
Absolutely.
this. And honestly, I think all this could help Trump. But in the long term, I also am worried about this lame duck session, because I don't think whoever she or he may be, I think it's definitely going to be a she, whoever that she is going to be, I don't know if they're actually going to get through before November. But even if Biden did win, there's that lame duck session where she'd probably just get passed anyways.
Right. I agree with you. I think that this is only this could mean a lot of wins for Trump for a couple of reasons. One, you mentioned it already, which is the suburban women, right? I think even hours after Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed, Trump said that the next pick's going to be a woman, which is a really interesting pick. It almost reminds me of when Joe Biden said, my VP pick is going to be it has to be a woman. So definitely, and definitely Trump needs to get that white upper middle class suburban mom back to his side. And he could also say it's a promise made, promise kept, right? One of the big things that a lot of conservatives vote for Trump for are he might be kind of brash, he might be kind of harsh, he might say some dumb things, but he'll appoint conservative justices, right? It's a huge thing for both Democrats and Republicans. I think based on some 538 polling I heard about that, a majority of Democrats and a majority of Republicans both think that the Supreme Court is a major political issue, right? Like when they think about why they're voting, it's COVID, it's the economy, and then Supreme Court is up there. So, Trump can say, look, I've put in 3 Supreme Court guys, promise made, promise kept. It's a win. It's a W. I also thought of an interesting thing, too, is the shift in focus so close to the election just on the media, right? I think that this could be very bad for Democrats if you have a really contentious, confirmation process, and you shift focus away from Trump's bad coronavirus response to more traditional arguments about abortion, traditional arguments about immigration law, kind of back to the old standard arguments. I think that's bad for Democrats. I think, like you said, like it shifts focus away from bad Trump, bad as Trump, to then just like conservatives bad, Republicans bad, and that I don't think that helps swing voters. I think it'd be better if Democrats still just focused on things that affect your day-to-day life, right? Coronavirus, you not having a job, you're waiting to get more unemployment checks. But I fear for Democrats that they're going to start focusing on old school arguments and this battle, which is not a winning one. Like I said, I'd put it at a 98 to 99% chance that McConnell gets an appointment, like Trump gets his appointment confirmed by the Senate. So like, why fight tooth and nail over a battle you're not going to win if it's going to hurt perhaps your election status.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think back to the Kavanaugh hearings a little bit, like obviously different scenario, but by the end of it, I don't think it really helped Democrats, and Kavanaugh still got appointed, right? And it was a lot of tick for tack, brutal fighting, and it just made everyone look bad in the media. I mean, you had Lindsey Graham. I think that was kind of where Lindsey Graham 2.0 arrived. His just emotional chaos in that, and then you had people like, Dianne Feinstein, who there was some questions. I don't know. I'm not even going to get into all this stuff, but it was not a good. It was just not a good look
for anyone. Yeah.
No, and I'm just worried. Like, yeah, I think you're completely right that we could see something like that again, and I think you're right. I think Mitch McConnell's going to have no issues because there's an interesting thing is we've had Suzanne Collins out of Maine and Senator Murkowski out of Alaska, who have both said they would prefer waiting till after the election.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they picked their words very carefully. They said till after the election. It doesn't mean that they're not going to support this nominee. It just means maybe they believe in a little bit more of the morality of letting RBG, be in memory before we just get this process going. And but again, I think they would probably agree with this pick. It's just maybe they have a little bit higher morals than Mitch McConnell, at least in the grieving process. And I mean, Mitt Romney's, also said that he would support it. And now I just find it hilarious because, like some people on the left, just loved Romney because he, voted to impeach Trump, and now, he's kind of back to the hated Romney. I've seen some people like, God damn Romney, like how'd you do this? I'm like, of course he did this. This is exactly what it's what he believes in. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough.
So, so I wanted to also bring up that fact that even if like forcing through really quickly a nomination is publicly unpopular, right? Now we're still figuring that out with polling and everything, but let's say you still have 63% of America think that we should wait. I still think Republicans are going to do it because it's a life appointment. It's almost worth taking a little bit of a political hit. If you're a conservative, it's worth taking a little bit of a political hit if it means you confirm a significant conservative Supreme Court majority for decades, right? This is such a big thing that so for Romney, Romney's outspoken against Trump, voted to impeach Trump. He probably likes being the good guy from a little bit, but of course he's gonna support this because he's not thinking about, oh, I want a Trump appointee. He's thinking about, man, we can get another conservative on the Supreme Court for another 40 years, 50 years. Of course you will. And I think that that's also why, other battleground state Senate races, right? Like Susan Collins. Susan Collins she probably said she went out against it because she knows she's kind of she's not safe anymore in Maine. No. So she's probably okay, I kind of messed up with Kavanaugh as well, so I'll go out and say, oh, we should wait. But that doesn't mean anything once you're on the floor voting, right? She hasn't confirmed that if there is a thing, I'll vote no. She says we should probably wait. But wait till it's on the floor. I bet you she votes yes. It's such a long-term victory for Republicans that even if it's a short-term hit in a couple battleground states, if I was McConnell, I'd say it's worth it. Yeah, we'll lose a few seats. Who cares? We have the Supreme Court for 50 years now.
Yeah, I can never stop thinking about how damn lucky Trump has been with this. He's been really lucky to have potentially 3 nominations. A lot of presidents would dream of that, And you're right. I think that's a very good take. It's a very good take. And also, I mean, there's some polling out of the week in the Atlantic that says that a lot of polling shows that Scalia's death in 2016 helped bring aboard wavering conservatives to Trump's cause. And I think that makes sense, like you were talking about, and so we're just gonna really have to see. I think it's just given, and you're right. I mean, I was looking at the ages of some of these people that he's looking at nominating. I mean, Barrett, she is 48, and then the other one, Barbara Lagoa, she's 52, and Allison Rushing is 38. So all these people could be on the Supreme Court for a very long time.
For 3 to 4 decades,
and that's worth it. Yeah, that's worth it. Trump is Trump is, I mean, I would imagine eventually going to be gone. I really hope. But yeah, this is going to last. Now I have a question for you, and like this is just discussion for
Sure.
discussion reasons. What do you think will happen to Roe v. Wade with like a conservative majority like this? Do you think there really is a fear of reversing abortion rights?
Um, again, it talks about like I think that the other nominees we've seen from Trump, Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, kind of skirted around this question when they were asked in their confirmation, because of course they were asked about Roe v. Wade, and they both kind of gave a milk toast answer, but it was one of basically like, I don't aim to go against any hard set precedents, right? Something that has such public approval and has been set and been a precedent for decades. I don't intend to go against that. Whereas Amy Coney Barrett, I have some notes here that she actually wrote. She wrote a book in 2013 about like precedents and the judiciary, and she mentioned a bunch of cases that she considered to be, deeply rooted and supported in public opinion and legal precedent. That even if she personally disagrees with, she wouldn't dare touch the precedent. Right? She purposely excluded Roe v. Wade from that list. So she obviously has her own personal opinions about Roe v. Wade, and I think her argument is that it's not, since it's such a contentious issue and has been for so long, she argues that it's not set in stone from public opinion, right? Like some things, right? I don't know, like not banning alcohol, I think is pretty set in stone in public opinion. Like you'll find some, you'll find some people somewhere that think it should be banned, but most everyone in the country is like, well, yeah, whatever, we tried that, it failed. But Roe v. Wade's not like that.
Right.
Now, Roe v. Wade does share a lot of support, and I have it up with the hill here. 77% say Supreme Court should uphold Roe v. Wade. That's pretty significant. And then, of course, it does matter based on how you word it, right? So if you are pro-life or pro-choice, that goes down to more like 60-40. But I don't know. I mean, I think it really comes down to, I do think part of it is public opinion, right? Because the Supreme Court is supposed to be apolitical, but let's be real, they do pay attention to public opinion. And again, as Amy Barrett has said before, being solidified in public opinion does kind of play into how much a precedent can be set. So it's really hard to say one way or another. With a 6-3 conservative majority, it certainly is a risk that Roe v. Wade gets overturned. But also from the language I've heard from some of these other judges, they might not want to touch it. It's really hard to say one way or another. I'm not ringing the bells of chaos yet that it's like for sure going to get overturned. Because the language I've heard from people and kind of the legal precedent that it is, it's going to be a tough one to even do with a majority.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good take, and yeah, I would agree with that too. And the only thing that I always worry about is it's something I've been kind of doing a lot of reading on recently, is the tyranny of the minority, not the tyranny of the majority, right? But a lot of like fundamentalist religious countries and governments, that's kind of the trend, is a tyranny by the minority, And so yeah, if you look at what you were saying, 77% of Americans support the precedent on that. But then, if you do have even a minority of Americans supporting now 6 out of the 9 justices, I think there could be cause for concern. Obviously, I'm not just saying, oh my gosh, we all need to just freak out. But it does worry me that just because public opinion's there, unfortunately, sometimes that could not be the case, And I also do feel like with Roe v. Wade, even if parts of it were taken back, I don't even think that would be the biggest fear. I think it would be more healthcare. It would be, trying to defund groups like Planned Parenthood that deal with abortion, other things like that. And the problem is that, wealthy states would still have good access to abortion, but it would unfortunately hurt poorer Americans. So I think that would be a concern, in California, for example, I don't know if the federal government could really do very much dealing with abortion. But, if you have like deep South, like Mississippi, Alabama, some places that maybe did reverse some of these laws, you would have impoverished people that would kind of be stuck. And that would be unfortunate. So so it'll be interesting to see.
You already have some states that only have one Planned Parenthood already. Yeah. And then if they have the ability to get rid of it, then if you're in Mississippi and need to get, for whatever reason, need an abortion, good luck. I guess you're gonna have to go to a different state. or do it illegally. So no, I mean, look, certainly for those that are like very, pro-choice, very, women's rights, they do have reason to be worried. Of course they do, right? Ruth Bader Ginsburg was considered a feminist icon and is now going to be replaced with someone probably not considered a feminist icon.
Probably not.
So no, they do have reason to be worried, but I don't think based on the way our judiciary works, I don't think it's 100% guaranteed though that Roe v. Wade will be overturned. I don't think that's true. I do think people need to be worried, but it's not a guarantee, even with a majority, because of precedent.
Yeah, exactly. And just my last thoughts are I thought Gorsuch was going to be much more conservative than he's voted so far. So things can surprise you,
Yeah.
So yeah, we shall see. But I just honestly, I just want to get through this election, man, and get into 2021.
Yeah.
I'm over it.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll have to see who gets picked. It looks like Amy Coney Barrett is the top choice, but we don't know for sure. I mean, Amy Coney Barrett was also considered for the Kavanaugh position, but then Trump went with Kavanaugh. So we'll see. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We should know by this weekend. And yeah, let's see how quickly. Maybe they'll do it in record time. I think the average is like 50 to 70 days to get a Supreme Court confirmation. And we have less than that. We have 40-something days until the election. So it'll be interesting to see the timeline. Any last thoughts before we're out here?
No, I think we're all good. Just tell them where to find us.
All right. You guys can find us on YouTube at the Tonic Accord, Facebook. We do live stream on Twitch every now and then, about once a week, usually on Tuesdays. And then, Podbean, Apple Podcast, a host of third-party sites. But if you just Google the Tonic Accord, we will come up. So, please let us know your thoughts. Do you think this confirmation will go through? Do you think it should? Do you think they should wait? Why or why not? And how do you think it will affect the election? Let us know your thoughts, any and all thoughts, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, guys.